So I just saw that my video, what to do if you're 40 and a failure, kind of took off. So I figured I'd expand on it a little bit for those of you who might benefit. This video will apply to basically anyone who feels like a failure. So let's talk about that.
You often give advice to young adults to help them avoid some of the pitfalls of life. Any advice for those of us who are 40 plus who have already faltered? Look, first Graham, this is Graham. Everybody who is 40 plus has already faltered, but I'm presuming that you mean faltered in a manner that appears to you to be above the average, right? Well, what I would really recommend is, I think that you should, if you haven't already, you should go do the future authoring program and maybe the past authoring program too, because you should figure out exactly how you faltered. Like, what exactly did you do wrong by your own analysis, right? I'm not saying, well, what social rules did you break? Although that's not a bad initial guideline. It's like, so in the self-authoring suite, there's a past authoring module, and it asks you to break your life into 7 epochs, and then to consider the emotionally significant or practically significant events within each epoch, and to detail out their emotional nature and their consequences and so on. And one of the things you might want to figure out is, well, when you say that you faltered, like, what do you mean exactly? And I mean exactly. Go over your life with a fine-tooth comb. This is what Alexander Solzhenitsyn did, by the way, in the Gulag, before he wrote the Gulag Archipelago. He went over his life and said, okay, well, like, where did I go wrong? What did I squander? What mistakes did I make? And what did I do right? So that you can orient yourself now.
Let's talk about what to do if you're 40 or 30 or whatever age it is and you feel like a failure. Starting by putting a couple things into perspective. I put failure into quotations because the only true failure is to give up completely. And if you feel like a failure, but you're here clicking on and watching a video labeled what to do if you're 40 and a failure, by definition, you have not given up. You're still breathing, still alive and kicking, still searching for options, still gathering information and working on your future in that way. So a failure, you are not.
It's hell to be bitter. And if you're 40 and you're not successful, then you have to accept your lot and you have to start to improve what's right in front of you. And if you do that, it doesn't take very long. It's quite interesting to watch people. Things can be a lot better in 6 months and they can be way better in 2 years. Like, it's a struggle, uphill struggle, but it's by no means impossible. And I don't know, again, what the limit of that is. I suppose it depends to some degree on the degree of your commitment. But anyway, so it's another indication of the real validity of this story. God isn't setting this up to be easy, right?
We all start in a different place in life. That's the second thing about failure. The usual definition, true failure aside, is what? Lack of success. But when you see an 18-year-old girl working at Starbucks, would you consider her a failure? Probably not, right? She's basically a kid, you know, who knows what kind of background she's had. If we were going with that definition, lack of success, though, she would be a failure. Many people in their 40s have worked their butts off for years just to get to that level of financial security that the 18-year-old girl who just took your order at Starbucks has, and at no fault of their own. We all start in different environments, in different families, at various places in life, and with different talents, skill sets, and experiences. A child born into a slum has a very low chance of even getting out of the slum and into the higher end of a low-income situation, let alone becoming a millionaire or something like this. But a kid born into an upper-class family will likely stay there, even with relatively minimal effort. So the point is, life has never been fair, and never will be. People who haven't come into their own yet are not failures until they give up or die without success. If you have a solid decade left in you, and you probably have a good bit more, you have everything you need to forge your own success, and plenty of time to do it. And that part is key, defining success. You get to decide what is success to you. Don't let society define that for you, or you will be forced into the cookie cutter mold of the average consumer, whose life kind of sucks, by the way, on average. Social engineering absolutely exists, and if you don't decide what you want out of life, someone else will decide for you.
Look, you got 40 years left, man. So what do you want them to be like? So what do you want to aim at? At least, how are you going to minimize the misery if nothing else? And so you need a plan. And then what you need to do is to figure out how to work day to day so that you incrementally approach that plan. So I have another chapter in this new book called Compare Yourself to Who You Were Yesterday Rather Than to Who Someone Else Is Today. And that's really a useful psychological stance for someone who's 30 and over in particular.
What I would do is write out specifically the times when you felt most happy, satisfied, or fulfilled. What do you enjoy most in life? What does that still small voice in your mind push to you consistently and push you towards consistently that you haven't taken action on or not enough action on? Write out the highest version of success for you, not based on anyone else's opinion, just your own. Then pursue that. In addition to that, consider your market value, first off, as only a relatively small part of your value, because that's the truth. And second off, if you live in America, for example, consider it in light of the global scene, right? Not one nation or another, not even your own nation. Sure, maybe you shouldn't be comparing yourself to anyone but yourself yesterday, but let's be real. Your mind is going to compare your financial state, your status, and everything else to the people around you. So you may as well help keep that narrative honest and in your favor wherever possible. Meaning, if you make 40K per year, guess what? In many, if not most nations, you're actually in the top 10% of earners. The top 1% in some. Your environment is the key here. You get to choose your environment. And that's vital because your environment will dictate your perceived and actual success. Remember Mark Twain's Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court? When he travels back to the Middle Ages, he quickly gains high status in the favor of the king as a powerful magician, in part because he knew how to create guns and other wizardly things. Back at home, he was, I think, a manager or something like that, but in this environment of the Middle Ages, he was a technomancer, competing with Merlin, a big fish in a small pond. And you could do the same, but without time travel. If you feel behind in life, be humble. Don't be too proud to at very least start with a smaller pond, or a few of them. And by pond, I mean hierarchy. Whether that's your gym, your workplace, career, church, group of friends, your judo, BJJ, boxing gym, etc., whatever it is. Choose the ponds that you have the highest chance of rising to the top of, or create your own. Start your own business, your own community, or nonprofit, or small group. In the water hole, the lion is not king, but rather the crocodile or the hippo. In the sky, the lion is not king and never could be, but the eagle reigns supreme. Even in the jungle, many would argue that the tiger is the king, the one adapted specifically for those circumstances, while the lion is fit to be king of the savannah. The point is, your environment is massively important in determining your level of success. And you get to choose it. Is your environment holding you back right now, or is it serving you the way the savannah serves the lion? And if you want to really put things into perspective, here's what you do. Put together a list of the countries where you are in the top 1%, earning $40,000 per year, or $20,000 per year if necessary, right? Then visit those countries over the next 5 to 10 years. If you run a remote business or have a remote job, live there for a few months or maybe longer. Right? I know it's kind of a big homework assignment, but it really puts things into perspective. Many years ago, I did exactly that and quickly realized from a global perspective, I was filthy rich, even though I felt average at best at the time. Now, many make much less than that. And that's okay too. You start from where you are.
Abraham's old, and his wife is old too, and more than that, she's barren. How is he going to be the father of nations? How is he going to be successful? Well, the initial departure point is insufficient, radically insufficient. And that's very inspiring, because it means that you can start from where you are.
You can start from where you are, and it's good, and it's okay, and it's even inspiring. You start from where you are. It's not going to be easy, because life is hard for everyone. But there are hundreds of case studies out there showing how people who were quote unquote failures in their 40s, or went bankrupt in their 40s, or hadn't achieved their version of success yet in their 30s or 40s or 50s, turned everything around and achieved that success. If you learned something or were reminded of something important today, please give this video a like and comment to help me harness the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe and hit the bell so that you're notified when I publish a new one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.